y'all, welcome back to another Chats in the Blog Cabin. You know, the show where I virtually invite people into the blog cabin to chat about life. And today we're talking about how you can overcome your life, what happens in your life, how you can, instead of making it your mess, make it your message. And I'm chatting with Amy. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi, nice to be here.
So tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I live in Wales, which is in the UK, and I'm a singer and currently a voiceover artist, which I started at the end of 2019.
But you've had to overcome a lot of challenges to get to where you're at today. You were diagnosed with sensory neuropathy type 11. So let's talk about that first.
Okay, so first, sorry, so it's sensory neuropathy type 2, and I'll put the 2 as 11.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know how many are there. I just know there's 1 and 2. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with that when I was 4 years old, and it means that I can't feel hot or cold anywhere throughout my body, only in my mouth. But it also means that I can't feel superficial pain. So when I hurt myself, I don't know. Like I did yesterday, actually, I cut my foot and I didn't see, only saw when the blood was like on the floor. So I can't really feel things. Yeah, it's just quite difficult. But it also meant that because it affected my spine, I stopped growing at the age of 11. And I also developed osteoarthritis by my early teens. So it was quite a difficult time.
So how did you get out of the mindset of, instead of this happened to me, make it work for you? Not, what I'm saying is, instead of always being down and depressed, like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't feel pain. So I'm sure you were probably sheltered as a kid as saying, you can't go out because I'm afraid if you get hurt, you're not going to know you're hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I sheltered, quite a lot of my life. I think when something happens like this to you when you're very young, you kind of learn to adapt. I think at later age, you kind of find it, when you something you've been able to do all your life and then you stop. That's probably harder than having been, born or develop it as a child and kind of navigating your way. Yeah, but when you're very young, so you get used to it. By the time you're an adult, you kind of already know how to get your mindset around that, and it does take practice. It does take time. I mean, I've suffered from a lot of depression over the years. It hasn't been easy to keep things going. A lot of the time, it's just like, oh, what is the point? But you kind of can't stay that way for too long, otherwise you never get anywhere.
Yeah. So you talked about suffering with depression. Was music one of the things that made you kind of come out of the depression? Was that one of the things that you just kind of navigated to?
Yeah, I think you get used to it. It's kind of like an up and down spiral. So you kind of go down when things are just going really badly or nothing is moving, and then, I mean, I kind of lift myself out of it. Like, I kind of force myself to lift myself out of it whenever I've gotten to that stage, because I know that if I don't, I'm going to spend that. Time goes really quickly. So I mean, I just don't know where the years are going, and so if you stay in it too long, the life is going to be over, and you'll have nothing to say. So I have to keep that in my mind all the time when I'm going through a low point, going, well, I can't do anything about this and this, so I just have to get on with it and actually make something that something positive that I'm going to be happy about and maybe want to do more of that.
Do you channel those emotions into your music?
Yeah, I used to when I was singing. I used to do a lot of the a lot of the depressing love songs really well. I was kind of known for the ballad singer because I could just relate to all of that. So that was fun. I mean, as I kind of learned to accept everything and maybe become a little bit more happier with things, I kind of stopped doing the sad songs so much.
I love that. So what made you gravitate toward music and being a voiceover as well? Because I love your voice, by the way. I love anybody that has that type of accent that's from the UK and around the surrounding areas. I love that. And the Australian accent, like my Surrey's Australian accent. So there you go. I love that, just that whole listening to you. But what made you gravitate toward the music and say, this is what I want to do with my life?
Well, I've always sung. There's not a time when I don't remember singing. So I entered my first talent competition at the age of 6. I have 2 older sisters. So we all used to sing together. There was just always music in the house. So I think that was kind of a natural thing for me. And because I was going through a lot of physical disabilities at the time, it was kind of like it was just like I can't think of the word now, but it's just like a safe haven, something that I
Mhm.
could do that didn't require much effort because it was natural for me. My projection was always really good. I had a lower kind of husky voice when I was younger. So, and I was always like known as the short girl with the big voice, but everyone would know who I was. Wherever I'd go, everybody would recognize me. So I guess that's one good thing about being small.
I absolutely love that. Now, let's talk about how you navigated your um the sensory neuropathy number 2, type 2 now that I know it's not 11. But how did you navigate that? Was the reason why you turned to music was because you couldn't play sports like other kids because you couldn't tell if you were hurt or not?
Yeah, and it wasn't just that so much. I think it was the doctors didn't know much about it. Actually, they didn't know anything about it. So I was only like one of five in the country during this time. So they, especially when the arthritis kicked in, they were looking at older people who obviously they knew were suffering from arthritis and they had a lot of knowledge with. So I was quite active until that time. And then they said, "Oh, you should stop all exercise." And that was
Mhm.
the wrong thing to do, in all
Mm.
honesty, because I was on my bike, I was roller skating, and then when they said stop, I did nothing. I sat on the sofa all day and well, when I wasn't in school and watched TV. So if, I mean, I don't. There used to be a time when I did blame the doctors a lot,
Mhm.
and then you have to kind of, well, they were only, saying what was best that they knew at that time. So I can't really blame them for changing my life, I guess.
I love that. When we come back, I know I mentioned in my talking points that I sent to you. Would you perform a few bars for us so we can see the small girl with the big voice when we come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we'll be right back after commercial.
Homeschooling just got easier and deliciously fun. My new book, Dishing Up Devotions, 36 Faith-Building Activities for Homeschooling Families, is a delightful devotional the whole family will love. With encouragement for mom, fun family activities, conversation starters, and simple baking recipes. It's sure to feed your family's faith while building lasting memories in just minutes a week.
And we are back chatting with Amy. Before we went to commercial, I asked her to perform a few bars for us because, as she said, she was the little girl with the big voice when she was growing up. So, Amy, it's all yours.
Okay, well, as it's Christmas coming up, I'll sing a few bars of a Christmas song. Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening. A beautiful sight, we're happy tonight, walking in a winter wonderland.
Wow, you do have an amazing voice. Now, you wrote your own album and you released a few singles. So let's talk about what it felt like to actually create the album, going through that whole process of getting the album out there.
Yeah, it was a learning curve. I'll say that because I've never done it before. So I never thought that I could write my own songs. I did used to write poetry when I was younger, but I never thought that I could actually make a song out of it. So when I did manage to do that, I was really, really excited. So after I finished one song, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make an album. So I was thinking, right, how many songs do I need? And like, okay, about 9. So I kind of wrote 9 songs in a couple of weeks. I had a band that I performed with on a regular basis, so I got them together. I wrote all the music out and got them to play through it, and yeah, it just really came together. They really helped me a lot, and then I went into the studio and recorded it. It wasn't an easy process. A lot of people dropped out, a lot of musicians, so I kind of had to navigate having to manage a project which I'd never done before. But then when it was actually created and the album was actually there, it was amazing. It was probably one of the best moments of my life because it was just something that I wrote that was mine, kind of like my baby. And I have a baby, it was my little baby that I created from, birth to actual completion. So it was nice. And then seeing it on Amazon and iTunes and Spotify, it just get a very satisfactory feeling of, something that I created from scratch.
And what's the name of your album for those that might want to go check it out?
It's called A Sin with Love. So it's kind of a play on my name. So it's Amy Sinha with love.
I love that. Now, what was the first time you ever heard it? Like the playback, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is me on this album.
Well, when you create it and you're singing it, you hear every little thing. So I was like, oh no, maybe I should change this and maybe I should change that. But then it came to the point when it's like, how much do you do that before, you just let it go and just let it release? I mean, looking back, there's so many things that I would change now if I did it again. But at the time, it was just like, what, I've done it. Let's just do it. There's only so much that, you can you can't be, it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. So just kind of put it out then.
So what was the response to it?
It was interesting because when I wrote this song, it was for me, it was for myself. And I think it was a different kind of album because it was about my thoughts, which a lot of people, they're not going to resonate to it. It wasn't a simple melody that people might like. I came from a jazz background. I had so many things going on in my head and I just wanted to put it all out there. So granted, it wasn't for everyone, but then at the same time, a lot of people did love it. So I was just like, all right, because I always, when you listen to pop music, my biggest thing is that you can't hear the lyrics because it's just covered with the music. So I made a point of having my vocals slightly louder, and a lot of people didn't like that. But then a lot of people did, and so they, you kind of resonate with the people going, oh, you can actually hear what you're saying, which is great because the lyrics was half of the song. So I did what I wanted to do, and I did, it didn't really bother me what anybody thought, really.
Now, you graduated music college with a degree in music, which is jazz, and you recorded your album in New York. So what was it like recording in New York?
Well, no, what happened was I collaborated. So after I did my album, it was through social media, actually. This guy who had a record label based in New York, he liked my voice and he was starting his own independent jazz label. So he was like, do you want to collaborate on a few songs or do you want to do an album? And I was like, yeah, no, that sounds brilliant. So from the amazingness that is remote recording, I did my vocals from here and he put it together in New York. But it got quite a big buzz because anything from New York to the UK is kind of like, and vice versa, isn't it? So it kind of made quite an impact.
Let's talk about recording. What's the word you just used? And now it's slipped my mind. But recording, like you're in Wales and they're in New York. Remotely, yes, remotely. You would think I would know that after all this time. But, recording that way, because it's got to be has its own challenges, correct?
Yeah, it does. It's hard when you're not actually in the room with someone telling, and they're giving you direction of what to do. So I was kind of on my own. So it was a little bit of a slower process, so kind of go back and forth. But I work quite fast. One of my great talents, I like to say, is memorizing songs quickly. And I like to practice before I go into the studio because studio time costs money. So I'm not one to go into the studio and then kind of play around going, from scratch. So I do the bulk of it. I know what I'm going to do. And then I use the studio to record that. And then maybe, go back and forth a little bit of what I can do and what I can change. So it was a little bit of a slower process because then I had to put it back, send it to him. And then he had to give his feedback. And then if there was anything that I needed to change, I did. But then on the other hand, it was brilliant that we could be so far away from each other and actually make a recording together without actually having to fly over there. And I think with COVID and everything is going on, I think we were just ahead of our time doing it that way.
I absolutely love that. So what kind of equipment did you have to kind of invest in for something like that? Like, for instance, like if somebody wanted to record an album remotely, what would they have to invest in?
Well, I went into the studio for that, so they had the equipment, but it's good quality microphones, recording microphones. You also need a mixing desk, maybe a 16 mixing desk, plug-in mixing desk. Doing the vocals. For instruments, you're going to have to get a lot more things in. You need, soundproofing. And a proper amplifiers and things like that, proper carpet to go down. onto the floor. So a lot of, to record in an actual studio instruments, you probably do need to invest. But what happened was when I did the voiceovers, I actually made some space in my home, just a quiet space, bought a good quality microphone, bought just a laptop, a good quality laptop. And then that's how I started doing from here. And I actually just finished doing a few blues tracks for a guy in Chicago, and I managed to do it from my home. So it's kind of just kind of trimming it down to suit what's best for you. And everybody thinks that the most expensive equipment is the best, but I found that it's not, because I'm not in a studio. So therefore I don't want a microphone that picks up, surround sound. I want it to pick up what my vocals is and not pick up the other sound that's going on in the house or outside. So I think you kind of just have to do your research and study what's best for you, and then take it from there.
So you mentioned voiceovers. Let's talk about voiceovers. How did you get into that kind of lane of doing voiceovers?
Yeah, it was just something that my older sister suggested, and it did resonate with me. And I thought, all right, okay, maybe just try it out. So I did a little bit of research, made a show reel, and started putting it out there. I mean, it wasn't an easy thing, because a lot of thousands of people have exactly the same idea as I have. So it is quite a very saturated market. I think, though, you have to kind of find what you love to do and what you're good at, and then just start pushing that out, and not listen to other people and to say how hard it is. We know it's hard, like singing. We know it's hard. We know it's difficult to make a name for yourself. So you're just going to be happy with what you do. And I actually really loved it. I got some really positive feedback, and since then I've done a lot of things that I never actually even knew that I could do. So it's kind of extended my repertoire from that perspective.
So you just mentioned you got to do a lot of things that you didn't think you could do. So what were those things?
Well, animation, for one. I never actually knew that I could do children's voices. But I can. I know. It's just, I can. I'll try that. Oh, very good. Yeah. So that's the main one, I think.
So what's the process? How do you get hired? Do you have to go on auditions for people to hear what your voice sounds like for them to actually hire you?
Basically, I mean, I also set up a website, and I did loads of voice samples, so people can hear it. But I've also joined an agency where they send me auditions, and then I have to audition. It's quite it's monotonous, because the auditions keep coming through, and then it's up to me what auditions I want to do. But I kind of really want to make this work, so from morning to night I'm kind of like auditioning all the time, and then I get chosen or not chosen. But it's great for me to practice as well, considering I'm quite fairly new at this, so I don't mind doing that.
So let's talk about the process of going through the auditions. Like, you get your agent tells you, okay, sends you, here's an audition. Talk about what it's like, step-by-step process of the audition.
Okay, so they send a sample of their script. They say the kind of style that they want it. They say how, the tone of voice, they want it kind of slow paced or kind of really fast, talking quickly. And then I kind of read the script, and I do it the way I do it, and then I submit it, and then they decide whether. Oh, I give a quote, and then they decide whether they want to move forward or not.
Has there ever been one project where you're like, I really want this, and then you don't get it? Or there's ever been a project where you think you did an awful job at auditioning, and it turns around and you actually got the job?
Oh, well, you know what? I do so many auditions a day. I do about 15 auditions a day. So I've kind of learned to forget. So even if there isn't one that I really want, I kind of try and put it in the back of my mind, because I know that I might probably not get it. I mean, yeah, there has been things that I've just done it really quickly, and I have done that. But I do love it when they actually pick me on purpose, saying, I like your voice, I'd really like you to do that, because it makes it easier. And I go, right, yeah, that's great. So I just get to do that.
So do you go into the studio to record it, or can you record that as well at home?
No, I record this at home. So when I started to do it, I just made a little recording studio in my house. And for speaking, it's slightly easier than singing. You don't need, I guess, what you might need when you're singing. But I have been singing now, so I think I kind of with the speaking, I found ways of doing a really great recording, even from singing. Finding ways to kind of soundproof the little area that I have, and make it like the best sound that I can.
So let's talk about some of the ways that you can soundproof, because I know that's a lot of people right now are still working remotely from home. They're having their kids running around in the background. Their dogs start barking, because I know it's happened several times on this podcast and show, is people have deliveries delivered right in the middle of it, and their dogs start going off, and I'm like, nope, not editing, because that's real life. But let's talk about ways that you can soundproof.
Well, you can put cushions all around to make the sound drier. You can also, I mean, I know some people are using a cupboard to actually go into, so they go into their little cupboard, or they've made a cubby hole. So they put the microphone into the cubby hole and they're speaking into there. For me, I found a quiet area in my lounge, and I've kind of put a screen and a pop shield. And I find that because it's a one-directional mic, so it doesn't pick up anything else, which is really great. So yeah, it's just again, what's best, what's the right circumstance for you. Not everything is going to work for everybody. Some people don't have money to make it a proper soundproofing, so hence the cushions, just to dry out the room to make it a better sound. But there's a lot of things online. There's a lot of YouTube videos that you can follow, and I recommend doing that, as well as watching YouTube videos for speaking. I mean, I've had singing lessons since I was very young, so I've known how to project my voice and use my voice in different kind of turn it to do different accents. And actually, that's how I do the children's voices. But if you don't want to hire a singing coach, then, as I said, there's loads of things on YouTube that you can get, tips and things that I do recommend.
Yeah, you've got to love YouTube. YouTube, you can learn anything on YouTube. You've got to love that. Now, I would love to hear your different voices that you can do.
All right, so this is a general British voice. I can't do that many voices, I have to admit, but this is my general British voice, and I can go into a Welsh accent because I live in Wales, and everybody probably knows Gavin and Stacey, or if you don't, you probably should look it up because it's really famous. It got Rob Brydon, so that's the Welsh accent. And then when I do like the Queen's posh, like really, really posh English. So you got a cup of tea, or everyone from America loves RP. This is the RP, which they are talking about the Queen's English. So you have to talk really, 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 really poshly, which, people think that's the way just English people talk. When I say where Wales is actually connected, they don't understand. But they actually think, I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso. It was quite funny because there's a bit in it, and he's asking how many countries are in this one big country, and he was like, oh, it's kind of like America. But yeah. Quite funny, but yeah, and then I can do the children's voice. So I won't do it now because I have to go into it. It's kind of like a higher pitch. Kind of have to yeah. But anyway, yeah. But a voiceover artist, not that many people can change their voice. I know that's all people ask me when I say I'm a voiceover artist. They go, all right, what voices and accents can you do? But there are loads of voiceover artists that just speak their normal voice, and they're chosen for like documentaries, wildlife, David Attenborough kind of thing.
So basically, a voiceover artist can be anything from doing a commercial to doing animation, like you said, cartoons and things like that, to actually doing a documentary. It just depends on what the specific company needs, right?
Exactly. I've done a lot of voicemail for international companies in America. I have done explainer videos for websites, and actually TV. I haven't done TV yet. That's what I really want to do. But I've done radio commercials, so it's kind of close. So I'm kind of like getting there, kind of homing in on what I really want to do and pushing for it.
So where do you see the voiceover taking you? Do you see it maybe a motion picture where you're a voiceover, like animated cartoon or something like that?
I would love to. I would love to do an animation. Yeah, that's something, because I've always wanted to just use my voice. I'm not very good. I've never been a good actress, so I've never seen myself on the front of the screen, but I always did want to do Disney. I used to love doing Disney, even singing like a Disney song, being a Disney princess. So kind of, I'd love, yeah, putting it out there. I would love to do Disney.
You're putting it out there in the universe. In universe, hear me. I want to do Disney.
Yeah.
Speaking of Disney, what's your favorite Disney character?
When you were asked what Disney character would you want to be, and I've always had this in my head. I would always like to be Belle from Beauty and the Beast because I love to read. I love the color yellow. I love French food, and it's based in Paris. I love to sing and music, and I just love to get rescued by a beast. No, apart from that bit, I would like that. Yeah, Beauty and the Beast, Belle. Yeah.
So what is up next for you? Are you planning on taking your music to the next level or taking the voiceovers to the next level? Which one?
Well, I don't think they should be exclusive. So I'm going to combine both of them and do the music and the voiceovers, because I do, as I said, I just did a blues, through blues tracks, and I haven't sung in a while, and it just reminded me how much I love to sing and how much I love to, because it was new songs that I was learning. So it's kind of challenging me that way. So I love that. I love learning new things. So I still like to do the music and I love performing, but I love also using my voice now in a speaking way. So I just love to do the voiceovers as well. So if I can combine the two, that would be amazing.
Do you think you'll have another album in you?
Probably not unless something happens. I really, 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 really want to write some new songs. I mean, I sing a few singles. Yeah, I won't rule that out, but I don't know. I can't say no. I never say never, because you just never know.
Who were your musical idols, the ones that you looked up to and that you listened to all the time, that you're like, I want to be like them, or I want the impact that they have?
I used to, when I was growing up, especially, I used to love Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, vocally, they were just absolutely amazing. And Toni Braxton. Now I kind of don't look at it in the same way. I just love kind of the older. I was really into jazz. I started off loving jazz, so I love the songwriters of that era as well, as much as the performers. But I love the songwriters, and I know what's his name? Stephen Sondheim died recently,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a big blow, because I just loved, all the songs that he wrote. I love the musicals. It's just amazing. It's on another level to, unfortunately, what kind of people, composers are doing now. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not sure. I think maybe it's going to take a lot for maybe somebody to have a massive impact on me. I mean, I love Ed Sheeran. Maybe he's one that I really do like, and I do love other artists as well. But I can't think of one band like the Beatles that would be, really, really make an impact, so to speak.
So what's your go-to song when you're at your worst moment, when you're, like you were talking about earlier, where you would get in that depression and you have to get out of it? What's your go-to song?
I'm really going to embarrass myself. I love this one song, and I don't know why I love it. It just makes me happy since I was probably about 17, and I'm sticking with it. And it is probably, I don't know if you've heard of it even, but it is Hanson and Mbop. Mbop. And I just don't know why. It just makes me feel happy. And
it's the tune of it. It's the tune, and you cannot not dance. You cannot. So our time is almost up. Is there anything that you want, a last nugget that you want to leave people with?
Oh, I would say, so many bad things, obviously, with the virus. It's just never ending, isn't it? When this Omicron virus, it just seems like one thing after another, and coming so close to Christmas, we don't know what's going to happen. And just, I think through life, I think you can get so depressed about things, especially, when you look into the future and go, what's going to happen? For me, time has always been an issue, and getting older, and I just found it difficult to work through that. So now I just literally just take it one step at a time, and I don't look too far ahead, because I get so overwhelmed. I think, all right, I just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and that would suggest that people do, if they're really having a hard time, is just focusing on the present, and just maybe working in week or a couple of weeks in advance, and just not thinking about what's going to happen, because we really don't know what's going to happen in the future, and anything can happen. So instead of just living for the future, just live for the present, and obviously have goals and things in mind, but just focus on where you are now, and things will happen step by step, to where you want to go 100%.
I absolutely love that. Now, is there you talked about COVID. How has that affected your business, and what's COVID like in the lockdown in Wales? I'm always interested to learn how other countries kind of navigate through that.
Well, we were doing really well. We had the vaccine, everyone was getting it. Lockdown had ended, and then Omicron came. And now we don't know how deadly it is. I mean, the results that we're getting from Africa is it may be spreading, it may be infectious, but they're not being hospitalized as much. So we don't know. But because it's spreading so quickly, people are getting scared. And well, so far we haven't had any restrictions. I mean, we've always had to wear masks. But they're saying that things might tighten up because of the Omicron variant, and they're trying to get people to have the booster. So now the third vaccine, to get it is quite vital. So, I don't know. As I said, it just seems like it's never ending, because there's going to be one like type, and then next year we'll have another type, another variant. So it just keeps on. So we're just really going to have to live with it. You know, it's like the flu, isn't it? You got different strains of the flu. So it's just, and people die, unfortunately, of the flu every year. Actually, thousands and thousands of people that I don't think anybody actually took notice of until coronavirus actually turned up.
How has that affected your business, though?
Right. Yeah. Well, it actually hasn't. I mean, coronavirus was actually the start of actually doing really well for me, because until that time, I was thinking, how am I going to make this happen? And then when the virus hit, the age of Zoom and the internet started to come about, and I didn't know what Zoom was until March of 2020. So because of this, I can do international things, and I've had a lot of work internationally. So the virus has excelled what I was trying to do. So I'm kind of grateful on one respect for that.
Yeah, a lot of people are looking at the virus as maybe, I hate to say it, called a blessing, but a mixed blessing, because they're able to, like, a lot of people were able to spend more time with their families now, being quarantined and locked down with their families. They got to spend a lot of time, where the hustle and bustle of life, you don't get to do that. Like you just said, you discover new skills. Actually, Chats in the Block Cabin started out because of COVID. I was missing that human interaction, but I hated to be in front of the camera, but I learned to get through it, and I learned to talk to strangers, which I was never good at. So you kind of have to push yourself out of the box to see it as a blessing.
I think you haven't. And a lot of people, what you've done, I think they're finding it, and that's the only interaction that they can have. But they're finding it like really, helpful to them. And I think when the virus, last year, I also started a course at the beginning of the year that lasted, it was an acceleration business course, and it lasted 3 months. And if I'm honest, I don't think I could have done that course if lockdown hadn't been in place, if everything was normal, because I wouldn't have had the time. But because you were forced to take time out, I kind of had the time to do that 3-month intensive course. So I think a lot of, as you said, is a mixed blessing. A lot of good things came out of the virus. Now that when it kind of lockdown stopped, and it was a little bit of a, oh no, I'm not sure I know how to go about my normal life now, and how I'm going to kind of make it work. So there was that as well when lockdown ended. So I kind of had mixed feelings about that. So it took a while to kind of make a balance where I have other things to do, and I have a social life and, friends and family outside of my house.
I absolutely love that. Now tell people where they can find you if they want to learn out more, or they want to listen to your album as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can find me. I've got a website at amysinha.com. That's SINHA. You can find me on all social media, TikTok as well, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and everything. And my music is all over the downloading platforms. Just type my name in.
I absolutely love that. Amy, I want to thank you for coming on, for sharing. I put you on the spot, but I did put it in the talking points. So there was one singer I put on the spot, and I'm like, oh man, I forget that sometimes they need to warm up their voice, and I need to make sure I add that in. But thank you for being such a great sport about it, and actually singing us a little bit of a Christmas carol to help us into the holiday season.
Don't worry. And then people have asked me to sing all the time, but over the years, that's one thing that you're prepared for. When you say you're a singer, even when you're out, they go, sing a song. So I always used to make a joke, but now I'm like, you know what, I'll just sing. Makes it easier.
And I cannot wait to see what else you come up with. And like I said, thank you for coming on and for sharing your story about how something as devastating as your disease, you've overcome it, and you still suffer with it, but you don't let it define who you are.
I try not to. Sometimes it's not easy. I'm not going to lie. It's not like some magic wand and you press it. It's a day-to-day thing, and it takes willpower. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I love that. So, guys, we will see you on the next chat from the blog cabin. Be blessed, and most importantly, remember, keep chatting. Bye.